heard that I'm going to be doing a 90-minute presentation soon, virtually, called Please Anything But the Budget. How to build a budget you can actually explain. And you're not alone in that fear. Most of us didn't go to school for that, and it just kind of came along in our professional life. But what I wanted to talk to you today about what I see the very direct benefits of attending this session would be. First of all, if you happen to be preparing for the CMP exam, this is a very good way to go through a lot of the material in the finance section. Not all of it, but budgeting and accounting specifically that is on the exam. It is heavily framed around that work, and it's an extended version of what I teach in my classes where people prepare for the CMP exam. So kind of a added value for those of you who are preparing. But for all of you, what it could be is, one, let's talk about accounting. The terms are very confusing, and even if we kind of get the idea because we hear them used enough, like cash and accrual and balance sheets and profit and loss and income statements and cash flow statements and everything, doesn't mean we actually really understand what they are, especially if someone gives them to look at. So it gives you an understanding of that. So when you are handed finance reports, you have a much better idea of what you're looking at and also have enough knowledge to ask right questions. Recently, I had someone who was in my class tell me, actually I had multiple people because it became a conversation, say, well, we don't actually get to see our finance sheets. We see our budget and what's being taken in and go out of it, but we don't actually get financial reports. It's all in our finance office. Personally, I find that amazing, but one day you will, or one day you are going to want to see them. And honestly, no matter what job you're in, I think if you went to your finance office and said, I'd really like to see some of these reports so I understand more how my accounts work, they would probably fall over and they would be ecstatic that you're showing such an interest in them. So for accounting, that's a really good place to start. And then moving on to budgets, because a lot of you deal with multi-million-dollar budgets. But whether you're dealing with $2,500 or $2.5 million in budgets, it's really important that you understand how to put a budget together correctly, best budget possible. So you don't have to be fearful when someone points to something in the budget and says, where'd you get that number? And you kind of go, oh, wow, now what do I say? And then you say something like, oh, I added 1,000 on last year's. So I'm a big believer that those of us who weren't raised in finance, shall I say, we need to catch up because it's a huge part of your job and a huge part of your career. And it also gives you power and it gives you some control. And honestly, that's really important to me. I don't want to be blindsided. I don't want to be able to not answer a question that someone asked me about a budget that I'm working in. So some of the things would definitely be learning the terms, learning the statements, learning how they apply, learning how to build the best budget you can for your events, and be able to explain them to anyone who asks you, where'd you get that number? So hopefully you see that it would be a sense of self-confidence. And again, for those of you preparing for the CMP exam, it definitely is a good overview of some of the material. And also, if you have at all thought about taking one of my CMP or meetings and intensive classes, even if you're not going for your CMP in the future, it will give you a really strong idea as to my teaching style and the content, so you know whether you would want to work with me again in the future. So I hope to see you on the event that day. Thank you.